I thought the worst thing that could happen that night was getting trapped in a storm with the man I had spent 5 years trying to forget. By sunrise, I would realize the storm was the easiest part. The first heavy drops struck my windshield as I turned onto the narrow road leading to my childhood home in Virginia. When I left Richmond, the forecast had promised ordinary rain. 90 miles later, the sky had turned nearly black, tree branches were bending in the wind, and the weather alert on my phone kept warning that conditions were getting worse. I told myself I only needed 20 minutes inside. Ryan was away for the weekend, and I had promised a client I would find 2 old sketchbooks stored in the attic. Grab the boxes, get back on the highway, drive home. Simple. Then I saw the dark blue pickup in the driveway. I knew that truck before I recognized the man standing beneath the porch light. Cole Bennett, my brother's best friend. The person I had not seen in almost 2 years and had unsuccessfully tried not to think about for much longer. He was checking one of the shutters when he noticed my car. Even through the rain, I saw him freeze. For one strange second, neither of us moved. Then Cole stepped beneath the porch roof, pushed wet dark brown hair away from his forehead, and stared at me like I was someone he had expected to remain safely in the past. I grabbed my jacket and ran the 20 feet from my car to the porch. Evan. His voice was deeper than I remembered. Please tell me Ryan did not send you into this weather just to check a window. Cole smiled, and that familiar expression hit me harder than it should have. He asked before the forecast changed. I was already here when things got ugly. At 29, Cole looked older in subtle ways. Broader shoulders, a little more tired around the eyes, more settled into himself. I hated that I noticed all of it immediately. What are you doing here? He asked. Sketchbooks. You drove 90 miles for sketchbooks? They are important. Of course they are. I narrowed my eyes. What is that supposed to mean? Nothing. But his smile softened. You always cared about your drawings more than almost anything. My hand stopped on the front door key. Always. The word landed strangely. Cole had been Ryan's best friend since college, which meant he had spent years drifting through our house like an unofficial member of the family. When I was 18, I had made the spectacular mistake of falling for him. I never confessed. Cole never gave me a reason to believe he felt anything beyond protective affection for his friend's younger brother. Eventually, I left, grew up, built a life in Richmond, and convinced myself the feeling belonged to someone I no longer was. Lightning flashed behind the trees. Cole reached for the door at the same moment I did, and our hands nearly touched. He pulled his back first. The movement was quick, almost careful. I looked up. For the briefest moment, his expression held something I could not name. Then it disappeared. After you, Ev, he said. That old nickname should have annoyed me. Instead, my pulse stumbled. I stepped inside, and Cole followed. Behind us, rain swallowed the driveway, the road, and everything beyond the windows. I did not know yet why Cole had looked at me that way. I only knew that for the first time, I was beginning to wonder whether forgetting me had ever been as easy for him as I had always believed. The house still smelled faintly of cedar, coffee, and the lemon cleaner Ryan had used since taking over the place after our parents moved south. For a moment, standing inside with rain hammering the roof, I felt caught between 2 versions of my life. Then Cole checked his phone and his expression tightened. The warning has been extended until midnight. I pulled out my own phone. The weather map was covered in orange and red. I can wait until it eases up. The county is asking people to stay off the roads. I heard you. Cole studied me. That usually means you are about to ignore me. I looked at him. You have not seen me in 2 years. You do not know what I usually do anymore. Something flickered across his face. Fair point. Instead of arguing, he walked toward the kitchen and began checking cabinets. That somehow annoyed me more. I followed him. What are you doing? Making sure Ryan has flashlights, candles, bottled water, and something we can eat without electricity. Cole glanced toward the window as another burst of rain swept across the glass. Unless you have secretly developed the ability to control weather, yes, I wanted to object, but another alert sounded on my phone. A fallen tree had closed part of the road toward the highway. There went my 20-minute plan. We spent the next half hour preparing the house. I filled 2 pitchers with water while Cole found flashlights in the hall closet. He checked the back door and shutters. I found canned soup, crackers, and enough coffee to keep Ryan alive through several emergencies. The strange thing was how easy it felt to move around Cole again. He would reach for something before I asked. I knew where he would put the flashlight without looking. It was like discovering an old song still lived in my memory after years of refusing to play it. You still take your coffee with one sugar? Cole asked while setting mugs on the counter. I turned toward him. How do you remember that? He shrugged. You used to drink it that way. I also used to wear terrible glasses and think instant noodles counted as dinner. The glasses were not terrible. They were absolutely terrible. Cole smiled. You liked them. I was 19. I had questionable judgment. His smile faded for half a second, and I immediately regretted the words, though I did not know why. By 8:30 that evening, the storm had erased the backyard behind a wall of rain. We ate soup at the kitchen island while Cole's phone played a local weather report. Conversation stayed carefully ordinary until he called me Ev again. You can stop doing that, I said. Doing what? Talking to me like I am still the kid who followed you and Ryan everywhere. Cole set down his spoon. I did not realize I was. You are. I looked directly at him. I am 23, Cole. I have my own apartment, my own clients, my own life. I am not Ryan's kid brother anymore. The room became very quiet. Lightning flashed beyond the windows, briefly sharpening every line of Cole's face. He did not laugh. He did not apologize. He simply held my gaze, with an intensity that made me forget the rain for one impossible second. I know, he said. The lights flickered once, then twice. Before I could ask what he meant, the entire house went dark. For several seconds, the darkness felt complete. The refrigerator stopped humming. The weather report on Cole's phone cut out as the signal disappeared, and the only sound left was rain rushing over the roof. Then a flashlight clicked on beside me, casting a pale circle across the kitchen. Still there? Cole asked. Where exactly would I have gone? Just checking. You always check. The words came out sharper than I intended. Cole studied me in the flashlight glow but did not respond. We carried the candles into the living room and lit 3 of them on the coffee table. Their warm light softened the familiar room, turning family photographs and old furniture into shadows from another lifetime. I sat at one end of the couch while Cole took the armchair across from me. The distance looked deliberate. So, he said, you really made illustration work. You sound surprised. I am impressed. There is a difference. I know. I looked at him. You keep saying that tonight. A faint smile touched his face. You always did notice repeated words. I frowned. You remember that? You used to complain when Ryan told the same story twice. Everyone complained when Ryan told the same story twice. You counted. I laughed despite myself. That was 1 Thanksgiving. 3 Thanksgivings. I stared at him. Cole looked toward the candle as though he had accidentally revealed something. What else do you remember? I asked. About what? Me. His expression became guarded. Evan. Come on. Apparently, this is entertaining. He hesitated. You hated mushrooms. Still do. You listened to Fleetwood Mac whenever you were stressed. Sometimes. You wanted to study in New York until you visited Manhattan and decided you could not live somewhere with that many people. My smile slowly disappeared. Anything else? Cole leaned back. You drew on every piece of paper you could find. You drank coffee with 1 sugar even when you claimed you liked it black. And whenever you lied. To Ryan, you bit your lower lip before answering. I went still. Those were not facts someone remembered accidentally. Why? I asked. Why what? Why do you remember all of that? Cole looked away. 5 years earlier, I would have given anything to hear those details from him. At 18, I had built ridiculous hopes from every ride home, every coffee he brought me, every afternoon he spent asking about my drawings. Then came my first Thanksgiving home from college. Cole had barely spoken to me. I remembered going upstairs that night embarrassed by how much I still wanted his attention. After that, I stopped coming home when I knew he would be around. You disappeared, Cole said quietly. I blinked. What? After that year, you started finding reasons not to visit. You noticed? His eyes returned to mine. Why do you keep sounding surprised that I noticed you? My heartbeat seemed suddenly too loud for the room. Because I spent years believing you did not. Cole's face changed. The easy familiarity disappeared, leaving something quieter and far more difficult to read. You really thought that? What was I supposed to think? He stood and walked toward the dark window, keeping several feet between us. Rain streamed down the glass behind his reflection. There are things about those years you never knew. I rose from the couch. Then tell me. Cole remained silent. Why did you start avoiding me? I asked. His shoulders tightened. Evan, some truths become complicated once you say them out loud. Lightning flashed beyond the trees, outlining him against the window. Then maybe complicated is better than pretending. Cole slowly turned toward me, and for the first time that night, he looked genuinely uncertain. That, he said softly, is exactly what I am afraid of. For a moment, neither of us moved. Cole stood near the window, his reflection faint against the rain-darkened glass, while I remained beside the couch trying to understand what he could possibly be afraid to tell me. Then lightning flooded the room with white light, followed almost immediately by a deep crack of thunder that seemed to shake the old windows. My body reacted before my mind did. My shoulders tightened, my breath caught, and suddenly I was 16 again in the passenger seat of my father's car during a summer storm, staring through a windshield that showed nothing but water and headlights. Nothing terrible had happened that night. We had made it home safely. Still, I had never forgotten the helplessness of not being able to see the road ahead. Another flash came. I counted automatically. 1, 2, thunder. Cole noticed. Of course he noticed. Evan, I am fine. I hated how unconvincing I sounded. Cole did not tell me to relax. He did not remind me that we were safe. He simply picked up the flashlight and nodded toward the hallway. The windows are making this worse. We can sit farther inside the house. I followed him without arguing. We sat on the hallway floor with our backs against opposite sides of the wall, the flashlight between us pointing toward the ceiling. The storm sounded softer there, distant enough that I could breathe normally again. Another flash came from somewhere beyond the living room. 1, Cole said quietly. 2, 3, 4. The thunder followed, moving farther away. I looked at him. You remember the counting thing too? Your dad taught you when you were a kid. I cannot decide whether your memory is impressive or unsettling. I was hoping for impressive. A small laugh escaped me, and some of the pressure in my chest loosened. We sat quietly while the rain continued overhead. Cole's hand rested on the floor between us, close enough that I could have reached it without moving much. He never tried to touch me. Somehow, that made his presence more comforting. He was not trying to rescue me. He was simply staying. Another minute passed before Cole glanced toward me. Better. Yeah. Then I noticed his other hand. His fingers were curled tightly around the edge of his jacket. You are tense. He released the fabric immediately. I am fine. I almost smiled. That was my line. You can have it back. You are not afraid of storms. No. Then what are you afraid of? Cole looked toward the ceiling. The question seemed to change the air between us. Nothing. I watched him. You told me I bite my lip. When I lie to Ryan. Want to know what you do when you are avoiding a question? His eyes returned to mine. Apparently, I am about to find out. You look anywhere except at the person asking. Cole gave a quiet breath that was almost a laugh, but there was no humor in his expression. Outside, the thunder rolled again, farther away now. Inside, he finally stopped looking toward the ceiling and met my eyes. This, he said, this is what I am afraid of. My heartbeat quickened. Sitting in a hallway? Being alone with you long enough that you start asking the questions I spent years making sure you never asked. The words settled between us. I looked down at the small space separating our hands, then back at him. Why? Cole's expression softened with something I had never seen him allow before. Because if I answer honestly, Evan, you are going to understand why I really stayed away. Then tell me, I said. Cole stayed silent long enough for another distant roll of thunder to pass over the house. The flashlight between us painted soft shadows across his face, and I could almost see him measuring every possible consequence before choosing his words. You think I stayed away because I still saw you as Ryan's little brother, he finally said. That seemed like the obvious explanation. It was not. My chest tightened. Then what was? Cole looked directly at me. The opposite. For a second, I forgot about the storm entirely. He drew a slow breath. I started noticing when you walked into a room. I remembered what made you laugh. I knew when you were pretending to be fine. I found excuses to ask Ryan whether you were coming home for the weekend, then pretended I did not care about the answer. I stared at him. Every old memory seemed to shift at once. So you knew how I felt? Cole hesitated. I suspected. I stood, suddenly unable to remain still. And you let me spend years thinking I had imagined everything? He rose too, but he did not come closer. I thought distance was the responsible choice. Responsible for who? For everyone. I shook my head. That is not an answer. Cole's expression tightened. You were 18, Evan. You were leaving for college. You had your whole life opening in front of you. I was 24, already working, already tied to this town, and I was your brother's closest friend. There were boundaries I was not willing to cross. I am not 18 now. I know. Then stop talking about me like I am. The words came out harder than I intended, but I did not take them back. I am 23. I built a career. I pay my own bills. I live 90 miles away because I chose that life. You do not get to keep treating me like someone who needs protection from his own feelings. Cole looked down briefly. That is not what I am trying to do. Then what are you trying to do? His phone suddenly regained enough signal to vibrate on the floor. Ryan's name appeared across the screen. Neither of us reached for it. Cole stared at the name for a moment, and I understood before he said anything. Ryan trusts me, he said quietly. There it was. The wall between us had never really been age or distance. It was loyalty. So that is it. I asked. My brother trusts you. Therefore, I do not get a choice. That is not fair. Neither was disappearing without telling me why. Cole flinched at that, and immediately I knew the words had reached somewhere deeper than anger. I never wanted you to think you were invisible, he said. Then why did you make me feel that way? He looked at me, and all the careful restraint I associated with him seemed to slip for one honest second. Because noticing you was exactly why I had to step back. The confession left me strangely still. 5 years of doubt collapsed into a single truth I had never dared to expect. Cole had seen me. He had remembered. He had cared enough to be afraid of it. His phone stopped vibrating. The hallway became quiet again. You keep telling me what Ryan deserves from you, I said. You keep telling me what 18-year-old Evan needed from you. I took one slow step closer, leaving plenty of space between us. But you have not asked the person standing in front of you what he wants now. Cole held my gaze. This time, he did not look away. All right, he said softly. What do you want? For once, the question was mine to answer. I looked at Cole and realized how strange it felt to hear him ask instead of deciding for me. I want the truth, I said. Not the careful version. Not the version you think Ryan would approve of. Cole nodded slowly. Then ask me. I took a breath. If Ryan were not my brother, would you still be standing over there trying to convince yourself that walking away is the right thing to do? Cole went completely still. Rain whispered against the roof now, softer than before. I waited while 5 years seemed to gather inside his silence. No, he finally said. One word, and somehow it changed the shape of every memory I had carried. What would you have done? I asked. Cole gave a quiet, almost embarrassed laugh. The first Thanksgiving you came home from college, I would have asked you to dinner. I stared at him. That Thanksgiving when you barely spoke to me. I barely spoke to you because I spent the entire evening trying not to ask. I went upstairs thinking you could not stand being around me. Regret crossed his face. I know that now. I shook my head, caught somewhere between frustration and disbelief. We wasted a lot of time. Maybe, you were building your own life. I cannot call that wasted. That was such a Cole answer that I almost smiled. Then he added, but I wish I had handled it differently. I stepped closer, stopping with enough distance that either of us could move away. What would differently look like now? His eyes held mine. I would ask what you want. I want you to stop walking away because you think it makes you a better person. Cole swallowed. And if I stay? Then stay because you choose to. He searched my face carefully. Are you sure? Yes. He gave me another moment to reconsider. I did not. When Cole leaned closer, there was nothing hurried about it. The kiss was brief and gentle, more like an answer than a beginning. And when he stepped back, his expression carried the same surprise I felt. No thunder followed. No lights suddenly returned. The house remained quiet, and somehow that made the moment feel more real. Well, I said, because apparently 5 years of unresolved feelings had not improved my ability to speak. Cole laughed softly. That was almost eloquent. Give me a minute. His smile faded as his eyes dropped toward the phone on the floor. Ryan's missed call still glowed on the screen. I watched the change in Cole immediately. Do not do that, I said. Do what? Turn one honest moment into another reason to disappear. I am not. He picked up the phone, but did not call Ryan back. There is something I should have told you before that happened. A cold uncertainty replaced the warmth in my chest. What? Cole looked at me with an expression I could not read. You said Ryan should not get to decide what you feel. He should not. I agree. Cole paused. But there is a reason I started keeping my distance when you were 18. I frowned. You already told me why. Not all of it. The storm had nearly passed, yet suddenly the hallway felt charged again. What are you saying? Cole drew a slow breath. Ryan knew you had feelings for me. I stared at him. That is impossible. I never told him. You did not have to. Cole's voice softened. He figured it out before you left for college. Then he came to me and asked me to make him a promise. What kind of promise? I asked. Cole lowered himself onto the bottom stair, and after a moment I sat 2 steps above him. The storm had faded to a steady rain, leaving the house strangely quiet around us. Ryan asked me not to encourage your feelings, Cole said. He knew you were about to leave for college. You were 18, trying to figure out what you wanted from your life, and he worried that getting involved with someone 6 years older would make everything more complicated. I stared at the flashlight on the floor. So he discussed my feelings with you without ever talking to me. He thought he was protecting you. Everyone keeps saying that. Cole looked up at me. I know. And you agreed? I promised him I would keep a boundary. I thought back to that first Thanksgiving after I left for college, when Cole had barely looked at me across the dinner table. For years, I had remembered that evening as proof that my feelings had embarrassed him. Now the same memory meant something entirely different. Is that why you acted like I was not there? I asked. Regret crossed his face. Yes. You could have told me. At the time, telling you would have meant admitting there was something to tell. I frowned. What does that mean? Cole clasped his hands together. Ryan knew how you felt about me. He did not know how I felt about you. The words settled slowly. You never told him? No. Not even when he asked you to stay away? Cole shook his head. He was worried about his younger brother. I was not going to make that conversation about me. I let out a breath. So Ryan thought this was completely one-sided. As far as I knew, yes. When did you realize it was not? Cole was quiet for several seconds. Your graduation party. My heartbeat stumbled. That early. I remember you standing on the back porch talking about leaving for college. You were excited and terrified at the same time. You told me you wanted a life that belonged entirely to you. A faint smile touched his face. Then you asked whether I thought you could actually do it. I remembered. I also remembered how much his answer had mattered. You said I already had. I went home that night and realized I had started thinking about you in a way I could not ignore. Cole looked down. So I ignored it anyway. That sounds healthy. He laughed softly. It was not my best strategy. And Thanksgiving? By Thanksgiving, I knew the feeling had not gone away. That was why I kept my distance. 5 years. The number felt enormous now. 5 years of missed conversations, wrong assumptions, and carefully maintained silence. You should have trusted me eventually, I said. You are right. There was no argument in his voice. When you were 18, distance made sense to me. When you were 21, 22, 23, I kept using an old promise because it was easier than admitting I was afraid of what would happen if I stopped. Before I could answer, Cole's phone vibrated again. Ryan's name appeared on the screen. This time Cole answered. Hey. He listened, then glanced toward me. Yes, Evan is here. We are both fine. Another pause. Cole's expression shifted. Your trip was canceled? I straightened. Cole listened again. How far away are you? His eyes met mine. 20 minutes. All right. Drive carefully. He ended the call. Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then I looked toward the front door, suddenly aware that the storm was no longer keeping the outside world away. 20 minutes, I said. Cole nodded. Apparently. I looked at the man who had just rewritten 5 years of my memories, then at the phone still in his hand. Does Ryan know now? Cole's expression tightened. Know what? That you love me too. Cole went silent, and that silence told me the answer before he ever could. No, Cole said at last. Ryan does not know. The answer should not have surprised me, but hearing it made the next 20 minutes feel suddenly important. Cole had spent 5 years protecting a secret from my brother, while I had spent those same years believing there was no secret at all. Are you going to tell him? I asked. Cole looked toward the dark kitchen. I should. That was not my question. His eyes returned to mine. For a moment, I saw the old instinct in him, the careful calculation of what would protect everyone from discomfort. Then he nodded. Yes, I am going to tell him. We spent the next few minutes gathering candles and carrying dishes to the kitchen, mostly because neither of us knew what else to do while waiting. The power returned with a sudden hum. The refrigerator started again, the hallway lights flickered on, and after hours of darkness the house looked almost too ordinary for everything that had happened inside it. Cole turned off the flashlight. "I think I preferred the dark," he said. "Convenient place to hide?" "Exactly," I smiled, but my nerves returned when headlights finally swept across the front curtains. Ryan's car rolled into the driveway 23 minutes after his call. A moment later, his key turned in the lock. He stepped inside carrying an overnight bag, his jacket damp from the remaining rain. "Please tell me there is coffee," he said. Then he looked at us. His expression changed immediately. "Why do you both look like I interrupted something?" Cole and I exchanged a glance. Ryan noticed. Of course he did. "Oh," he said. My stomach tightened. "What does that mean?" Ryan set down his bag. "It means I know that look." Cole stepped forward. "Ryan, there is something I need to tell you." My brother studied him for a long second, then surprised both of us. "Did you finally tell him?" Silence filled the entryway. Cole actually looked confused. "Tell him what?" Ryan stared at his best friend. "Seriously?" He turned toward me. "Evan, Cole once drove almost 50 miles through Thanksgiving traffic because you mentioned missing cinnamon rolls from that bakery near campus." I blinked. "You told me Ryan bought those." Cole closed his eyes briefly. "I am beginning to regret several decisions tonight." Ryan almost smiled. "You should. Your excuses were terrible." I looked between them. "Wait, you knew?" Ryan's expression softened. "I knew you liked him when you were 18. I asked Cole to give you space because you were young and about to leave home." That part one just learned. Ryan glanced at Cole, then back at me. What I did not know then was that he felt the same way. I figured that out later. Cole stared at him. "When?" "Probably around the third time you asked whether Evan was coming home for Christmas while pretending you were only making conversation." The tension in the room shifted into disbelief. "Then why did you never say anything?" I asked. Ryan leaned against the wall. "Because by the time I realized it, you were building a life in Richmond, and Cole had convinced himself that staying away was some noble act of friendship. I thought if either of you wanted something different, you would eventually say it." I shook my head. "So everyone knew something except me." Ryan's face became serious. "That is fair." "No, it is not." I looked at both of them. "You talked about protecting me. You talked about loyalty. You both made decisions around my life without ever asking what I wanted." Neither man interrupted. That mattered. Cole looked down, then back at me. Ryan slowly nodded. "You are right," he said. The simple admission took some of the anger out of me. Then Ryan looked toward Cole. "So, I am guessing something finally happened. Tonight." Cole did not answer for me. He waited. For the first time, the choice was entirely mine. "We kissed," I said. Ryan absorbed that for a moment, then looked at Cole with an expression I could not read. Finally, he sighed. "Good." Cole blinked. "Good." Ryan picked up his bag. "At least now maybe the two of you will stop making everyone else watch you avoid each other." Ryan's joke made Cole smile, but I was not ready to let 5 years disappear beneath one easy laugh. "Before everyone decides this is solved," I said, "I need to say something." Ryan stopped near the stairs. Cole turned toward me. Neither interrupted. "I know you were trying to protect me," I told Ryan. "And I know Cole thought he was respecting you. But both of you made choices about my life without including me." Ryan lowered his bag. "You are right." Cole nodded. "He is." I looked at him. "You especially need to understand something. Keeping your distance when I was 18 made sense. Keeping your distance forever because of a promise you made when I was 18 did not." Cole absorbed that without defending himself. "I confused restraint with respect," he said. "I thought staying away meant I was doing the right thing. Respect would have meant letting me choose once I was old enough to make that choice. I know that now." Ryan stepped closer. "And I should have talked to you instead of talking around you. You were my younger brother, and I was scared you would build your whole future around someone before you had discovered what you wanted for yourself. I understand why you worried." I paused. "I just needed you to trust me eventually." Ryan nodded. "I am sorry, Ev." The apology was simple, which somehow made it easier to believe. A few minutes later, Ryan carried his bag upstairs, announcing that everyone could continue having life-changing conversations after he slept for at least 6 hours. Cole and I remained in the kitchen. For the first time all night, there was nothing left to reveal. "So," he said quietly, "what happens now?" I looked at him. "Ask me tomorrow." His eyebrows lifted. "Tomorrow? You spent 5 years waiting. You can survive one night." He laughed and the sound followed me upstairs. By morning, Sunlight was pouring through my old bedroom window. The storm had vanished, leaving behind a bright blue Virginia sky and a yard covered with wet leaves. I found Cole on the front porch with 2 cups of coffee. He handed me mine. "One sugar," I said. "Some things are worth remembering." We stood together watching sunlight reflect off the wet road. Yesterday, that road had been my escape route. Now I felt no urge to use it. "I believe you owe me an answer," Cole said. "You actually waited until morning. I am impressed." It was difficult. I smiled, then became serious. "I do not know exactly what happens next. I live in Richmond. You have your work here. Ryan is still your best friend. None of that magically disappeared. I know, but I do know what I do not want." Cole waited. That was the difference. He waited for me to decide. I set my coffee on the porch railing and held out my hand. "I do not want us to spend another 5 years pretending." Cole looked at my hand, then at me. "Are you sure?" "Yes." He took it gently. Behind us, the front door opened. Ryan stepped onto the porch, saw our joined hands, and simply said, "Breakfast in 10 minutes." Cole started to pull away out of old habit. I tightened my fingers around his. He stopped. Ryan noticed, smiled to himself, and went back inside. Cole looked at me. "So this is your answer?" "This is the beginning of it." Morning light stretched across the wet driveway and the road beyond it. I had believed the storm would be the thing that changed everything. But standing there with Cole's hand in mine, I finally understood. The storm had not changed us. It had only taken away every place we had been hiding. What changed everything was finally telling the truth and having the courage to choose what came next.